We already lost, or we were about to lose that trend line already in my last video yesterday, where I mentioned to you, if we drop that trend line, we need to look at the fib levels, which can be drawn from the most recent low, and we have now nearly reached the 78.6 fib here at 23,120. There's a possibility to draw the fibs from here as well, but I think it's more relevant from the last swing low, then again depending on which one you use. But we're approaching the 78.6 fib here around 23,120. Dropping below that would give a strong indication that this wave 3 in green is already in, and we would also break below this kind of trend line here. So this is a trend line that I've added, but it's quite relevant here to connect those last relevant lows. We've got 3 touch points here, and a break below that trend line would be a first strong indication that this wave 3 is in, because it has failed so far to deliver on a possible impulsive increase and advance. We made a new high, we reached the target. 23.8k was the first target that I gave you for that third wave, and it could be it's already finished. And in an ideal world it would have pushed higher and wouldn't have broken below the 50% retracement, which however it clearly did, right? So it's coming down quite impulsively, so we need to be ready for the idea that this wave 4 has now started. It's very choppy. I mean, in the end, all we're doing at the moment, we're coming back and we're back to square one, right? We're still in this range, or we're coming back into the range. And of course, the price now has a chance to find support here at this trend line. And if it finds a reaction and reverses and pushes higher, then we have to find a way to count the wave 3 is still ongoing. I've now, in the meantime, restructured here the 4th wave. And before we finished here this 5th, which is the current, I've labeled it like that now. I mean, it's not really confirmed yet, because we haven't really broken any of the previous lows. Okay, that's very important. So we are not in a downtrend yet, also not in a short-term downtrend, depending on which time frame you're looking at really, but we haven't broken below any of these relevant lows from that triangle. I have relabeled the whole thing as a triangle. I mentioned that yesterday that this is possible. I did that now because of that, basically the correction where we shouldn't have had one. In an ideal world this would have pushed higher, because this would be a very shallow wave 5, a very short wave 5. But okay, it's possible. This can be labeled nicely as a triangle, so I did that together with the move up here and the move down now. This is getting quite likely because it allows me to count wave 3 as complete, so wave 5 of 3 as complete. And second, this wave 5 actually needs to sit here. And in terms of subwaves, I mean, even if it now extends further, we could count that as a 1-2 setup here, But then again, that's what I mean. It should not drop below the 78.6 fib. So if I draw it from here to give it a bit more space, it shouldn't drop below, 23,113. Because if it does that, also the idea of a possible 1-2 setup wouldn't really work. I mean, you can find a way to maybe, if it now finds support at that level or the trend line and we see a bullish reaction, what it then needs to do, if it then reverses and breaks above the swing high here, which is 23,772, then it could still give us a confirmation, or that would be a confirmation that it continues higher, because then we would be able to label it as basically here wave 1, here wave 2, 3, 4, 5, and that wave 2 looks a bit like a 3-wave structure, so we could find a way to label it as an A wave, a B wave, and now the C wave down. Might not be finished yet. So for example here, A wave down, maybe the B wave as a triangle, and now the C wave down with a 1, 2, 3, maybe another 4 and a 5, but then again it should ideally hold above the trend line. So I'm watching that. It's too early to confirm because we have really just only broken that trend line. We haven't made a new low. See, that's the thing. If we were breaking now below that last low of the triangle here, for example that E wave low, then at least we would have a good indication that the actual trend is broken. I mean, yeah, the very short-term trend is broken in that we broke below that trend line, but really all we're doing, I mean, we have made a higher high. If we now make a higher low, the trend is still ongoing, even though, and you can clearly see that, the bulls are struggling. The bulls are struggling, is what I mentioned yesterday. That's why we see these bearish divergences on the chart from high to high. Yeah, we're making lower highs on different indicators, and we start to see those bearish divergences. We see that very clearly, for example, here on the 4-hour chart. Lower high, lower high, lower high, but higher high on the price charts. So indicating the bulls are getting exhausted, but also here on the 4-hour chart, really since we started that increase, we've been hovering above the 50 level of the 4-hour RSI, which means we're in an uptrend. So if we now come down below 50, that would be a strong indication that a more substantial decrease has started, for example, into this wave 4. I'm watching that very closely now, so we need to be watching the 50%, not the 50%, the 50 level of the 4-hour RSI. A quick drop below it, not a problem, as you can see here. That happens in a wave 4, as it does here, and as it did here in the wave 2. In these corrections, you can come down below the 50 line briefly, and also in this wave 4, I would expect it, yeah. But that's exactly what I mean. If we drop below 50, it could be an indication that we get a lower reading here in the wave 4. And what often happens, is that between the wave 2 and the wave 4, actually, you get a hidden bullish divergence. So that means that the wave 4 low here on the 4-hour RSI could ideally get into the oversold range, so that you actually have a higher low on the price chart between waves 2 and 4 and a lower low on the 4-hour RSI. We are gonna be observing that, but you know, the trend line is the first clue. If we break below that, then the 78.6 fib, and then here this the 50 level on the 4-hour RSI, as well as then getting into the support area, which is still between 22,220 and basically 20,220. Yeah, and this is the main bullish support, and I'm gonna observe that for you, keep you updated. As always, channel members on Discord and Telegram get more frequent updates, and yeah, hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe, and if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching, bye bye.